Somehow I woke up out in Beverly, fucked up, smelling like that bourbon, and I end up alone. I'm not certain. Yeah, the girls impolite in the club every night. That's how it goes when you Hollywood perfect. Hollywood perfect. That's how it goes when you Hollywood perfect. Hollywood perfect. Ain't got no place to call my own. Feels like I'm better off alone. So sad inside and hopeless. These Hollywood hoes never notice. Can't get back on. You're gone, girl, I miss you. Can't get back on. You're gone, girl, I miss you. Somehow I woke up out in Beverly, fucked up, smelling like that bourbon, and I end up alone. I'm not certain. Yeah, the girls impolite in the club every night. That's how it goes when you Hollywood perfect. Hollywood perfect. That's how it goes when you Hollywood perfect. Somehow I woke up out in Beverly, fucked up, smelling like that bourbon, how'd I end up alone? I'm not certain. Yeah, the girls impolite in the club every night. Somehow I woke up out in Beverly, fucked up, smelling like that bourbon, how'd I end up alone? I'm not certain. Yeah, the girls impolite in the club every night. That's how it goes when you're Hollywood perfect. Perfect.
Take me 1,000 miles from here.
I don't wanna fight anymore. Just turn around and leave me. The tear in my eye drops on the floor alongside my speed. My knees are drenching in the blood I spill just to get here. When I look around me, everything I had went up in flames. My lonely way. close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go.
Take me 1,000 miles from here. Take me 1,000 miles from here.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
Here we go.
was wrong to say I wouldn't change a thing, 'cause in the story of our lives, the best of times through color glass, time moves on enough to let me move on past, but every little now and then it creeps on back to shape my smile.
Mic check, 1, 2. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the IRCC Study Permit webinar, where we will be sharing information about the latest changes in the travel restrictions and exemptions, and also sharing how the study permit process works. Thank you once again for joining us in this webinar. Before we start the webinar, I will just share the short agenda for the webinar today. We will be starting with a presentation, and then that will be followed by a series of frequently asked questions. These questions have been put together based on queries received over email and on our social media channels through various sources, and we have put together the answers based on the most latest and updated information. And then it will be followed by answering your questions, which I would request you to put up in the Q&A box, please. So once again, I would reiterate that please share your questions in the Q&A box and not in the chat box, and we will be addressing those queries after the presentation and the FAQs. So without any further ado, I would now like to begin the presentation. My name is Anindita Puragohai, and I am the Outreach Officer for IRCC in India. Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining our webinar today. We are pleased to announce changes to the travel restrictions since October 20th. It will permit more international students to travel to Canada. As Canada looks at ways to safely bring in more international students, we wanted to also give you the opportunity to get updated information and ask questions. So let us begin. International students make significant cultural and social contributions to Canada. Since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, IRCC has implemented a number of temporary measures to support and reassure international students about the study permit process. We will cover what those measures are today by covering such topics as exemptions to those travel exemptions, processing changes due to COVID-19, where we will talk about the two-step review process, authorized leave during studies, impact on the post-graduation work permit program, as well as the recently announced DLI approved list. We will also cover important points such as who can represent you in your immigration application and what you need to know before traveling to Canada. We will end the presentation with a Q&A session as mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. Moving on. For those of you who are considering studying in Canada, we want you to know what Canada has to offer should you choose to study at a Canadian institution. So why choose Canada? Many Canadian universities are highly ranked in reputed international standings. Canadian college and university diplomas are recognized around the world, and the Canadian educational system encourages cross-disciplinary studies to develop transferable skills such as critical thinking, teamwork, and communications. Canada is affordable and boasts a great quality of life with low cost of living, example, housing, transportation, tuition, etc. Everything is lower in Canada than many other countries, including the US. France, and the UK. Canada is one of the safest countries in the world with a low crime rate. It is also ethnically and linguistically diverse, comprising of over 250 ethnicities and speak more than 200 languages. Would you like to look at living in Canada after your studies? Great. IRCC offers a post-graduation work permit to students who have obtained a diploma from a post-secondary school in Canada and are looking to gain work experience. This is an excellent way to continue to live in Canada while diversifying and developing your professional skills. Now that you are seriously looking at choosing Canada to study, you should be aware of the current travel restrictions in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, nationally, we're seeing positive changes from actions put in place to stop the spread of COVID-19. We are taking precautions by ensuring there is more physical distancing, mandatory mask wearing, and promoting good hygiene practices. Canada is working to slow the spread of new cases by cautiously starting to allow more people to enter Canada. So this brings us to the latest changes to travel restrictions, which came into effect on October 20th. Canada is now allowing students who are destined to designated learning institutions, also known as DLIs, who have an approved COVID-19 readiness plan, approved by their provincial or territorial government, to enter Canada. As part of the DLI's approved readiness plan, they are expected to provide information to international students on health and travel requirements before they arrive in Canada, help students with their quarantine plans, and provide guidance or assistance in acquiring the necessities of life, such as food and medication during their quarantine, have a readiness plan to establish protocols for the health of students in the event there are suspected or confirmed COVID-19 cases at the school. The list of DLIs with an approved COVID-19 readiness plan is now posted on IRCC's website page for international students affected by COVID-19 restrictions and updated every 2 weeks as provinces and territories identify additional schools. This change to travel restrictions affects all international students regardless of where they are traveling from or when their study permit was approved. Travelers should not make any travel plans until they have met all requirements and received all necessary authorizations. With the amended travel restrictions, immediate family members may be able to accompany an international student to Canada if their reason for travel is non-optional or non-discretionary, such as getting established in Canada in support of the student's study program. This could include a spouse or common law partner or a dependent. Accompanying family members of a student must obtain a letter of authorization to travel by writing to the IRCC COVID-19 exemption mailbox, which is given on the slide in your screen. When writing to this mailbox, the applicant must explain why they feel they are exempt from travel restrictions. To be clear, students who were approved for a visa at any time, whether that was before or after March 18th, will now be allowed to travel to Canada, provided that the school is on the approved DLI list. Their travel is considered essential. The March 18th date was only applicable to travel restrictions in effect prior to October 20th, but it is no longer relevant. If your study permit is to attend a school which is not listed on the DLI approved list, your visa will be deactivated. This means that you cannot travel to Canada at this time, as you will receive a no boarding notice from your airline. We are aware of many service disruptions that are causing delays in the processing of your applications. Only online applications are accepted. This allows us to continually process applications across our network through work sharing of this caseload until operations normalize. Panel physicians, some businesses, and schools remain closed or are operating at limited capacity. This means that it may take longer for you to complete your medical exam or obtain the supporting documents you need for your application. Despite this, we will not refuse applications for non-compliance or failure to submit the requested documents at this time. However, you must submit the missing documents as soon as possible because we will not be able to finalize your application otherwise. On the IRCC website, the published processing times are no longer accurate since we are prioritizing applications for people who are exempt from the travel restrictions. The India Visa Application Centers, or commonly known as VACs, are now booking appointments for biometrics for students. Applicants must complete the VFS form online to book an appointment. VFS will confirm your appointment by email at a later date. Additionally, to submit a passport for visa issuance, visit the VFS website for instructions on how to access the two-way courier service. Note that IRCC Delhi continues to operate at a limited capacity as necessitated by the pandemic. As such, please expect delays in responding to inquiries. If you must submit a document or need additional documentation to be submitted or added to your application, you can go to your MyCIC account directly and add your information on that account instead of writing to us. Sending the inquiry multiple times will only cause further delays. VFS is now accepting appointments for biometrics for students. Many students require biometric appointments, and we are asking for your patience as biometrics appointments are being rolled out incrementally. At this time, only students and family class permanent resident applicants will be prioritized for biometric appointments. Therefore, family members of the students may have to wait. Visit the VFS website and follow us on social media for updates on the most latest VAC priorities. Applications destined to schools on the approved DLI list and the family class applications will be prioritized for processing and will receive a final decision on their application if all required documents have been submitted. This means that if your application is approved, you will be issued a visa so you can travel to Canada under the current travel restriction exemptions. If your DLI is not on the approved provinces and territories list, we will only finalize applications which result in a refusal. If you meet eligibility requirements, your application will not be approved for a visa until travel restrictions are further amended or lifted. You can scan this QR code on your screen to view the latest frequently asked questions for visa application centers and your biometric submission. Once I'm done with the presentation, I will come back to this slide and leave you with it so you have the time to scan this QR code. Any phone, whether it is an Android or iPhone, can be used to scan this QR code. This slide reflects the documents needed to receive an approval in principle for the student direct stream and the non-SDS stream. For SDS, you need a valid letter of acceptance, an IELTS test result demonstrating 6.0 in each band, a receipt or documentation that tuition has been paid for the first year, including all scholarships and grants, a receipt for a GIC for 10,000 Canadian dollars, your most recent school transcripts, and a certificate of acceptance for Quebec-bound students. For the non-SDS stream, here is what's different. In addition to IELTS, we also accept TOEFL and PTE results. No online language test results will be accepted. Instead of a GIC and paying a full year tuition, you must show liquid funds to pay for tuition. Sorry, I think I got disconnected. No online language test results will be accepted for non-SDS streams. Instead of a GIC and paying a full year tuition, you must show liquid funds to pay for tuition, living expenses, and transportation for the first year of school, plus an explanation and evidence of how you intend to pay for your living expenses while you are in Canada without having to work in Canada and without relying on working in Canada. Additionally, we strongly recommend that you submit a statement of purpose to explain why you have chosen that program of study, why Canada, and explain your financial plan to pay for all your years of study. Note that if you're unable to submit a required document, for example, upfront medicals, your application will be moved to the non-SDS stream. For those who applied before September 15 for a 2020 start date and are still waiting for your approval in principle, you should review your MyCIC account and personal email account for any correspondence sent to you about missing information. Please make sure your application is complete or it will cause delays. You must still comply with your study permit conditions if your in-class courses are temporarily moved to an online-only format or suspended completely because of COVID-19. To do this, you must stay enrolled in your DLI and participate in your studies online if your DLI offers them. If your DLI closes permanently due to COVID-19, you have 150 days to enroll in a study program at a new DLI, change your status to worker or visitor, or leave Canada. Note that you are not permitted to work more than 20 hours per week despite a school closure on online learning. Many of you will have questions about working in Canada and how the current changes may affect your opportunity to be employed. So why is the Pgwp important for many students? It is worth noting that you can obtain a 3-year Pgwp. This all depends on the length of your program and your eligible studies while you are in Canada. Work experience provides a better opportunity to gain the language skills and work experience required to apply for permanent resident status in Canada. In addition, Canada has some of the highest salary for workers. Furthermore, persons with Canadian work experience are often able to demonstrate they have the skills, knowledge, and critical thinking required to do the job. It is worth noting that you can obtain up to a 3-year Pgwp. As mentioned, this all depends on the length of your eligible studies. IRCC has introduced additional measures to provide maximum flexibility for students to obtain their Pgwp. If you are unable to travel to Canada at this time due to travel restrictions, your eligible online studies will count towards your Pgwp if you already have or have been approved a study permit, or you applied for a study permit before beginning your program in either 2020 or winter 2021. If you fall in any of the situations listed above, you can complete up to 100% of your program online while outside of Canada if your program is between 8 and 12 months in length and you started your program of study between May and September 2020. This essentially means taking an entire 1-year program online outside of Canada may qualify the entire program for a Pgwp. You can also complete up to 50% of one program online up until April 30th, 2021, while outside of Canada if you will also eventually complete at least 50% of your program in Canada. Furthermore, you can complete up to 50% of 2 programs online up until April 30th, 2021, while outside of Canada if you graduate from 2 different programs and within 2 years of each other, and each program is at least 8 months in length, and at least one of the programs started between May and September 2020, and at least 50% of the combined programs is completed in Canada. This means that you could potentially complete a 1-year program outside of Canada and then take another 1-year program in Canada. And both programs will give you the maximum allowable time towards your Pgwp. Note that only online classes that began in 2020 or winter 2021 and ending by April 30th, 2021 can be counted. Fall 2020 and winter 2021 semesters must also be a full-time course load. This section applies to students already in Canada. Essentially, if a student switches his studies or has to take a break due to the COVID-19 pandemic, I'm sorry, I'm facing a little bit of a technical issue. Essentially, if a student switched to part-time studies or had to take a break in studies, for example, the spring semester may have been cancelled due to the pandemic, they may still continue to work on and off campus provided they were previously a full-time student and already authorized to work on or off campus pre-pandemic. For off-campus work, the maximum limit is still 20 hours per week during the academic session and full-time during regular academic breaks. School closure, part-time studies, or semester cancellations due to COVID-19 do not count as a regular scheduled academic break. If you decide to study and work in Canada, you may then decide to make Canada your permanent home. To begin the process of applying for permanent residence, you must submit your profile in the Express Entry online system. This will show you how many comprehensive ranking system points you have based on your education, work experience, language ability, and other factors on a regular basis. IRCC invites the candidates with the most points in the Express Entry pool to apply for permanent residence through one of the federal economic immigration programs. Having a plan to quarantine is a very important piece to the travel restrictions being relaxed for the international students. Make sure you follow it. Not doing so could end up costing you or others COVID-19 as well as imprisonment, removal from Canada, and a fine of up to 7,50,000 Canadian dollars. Before traveling, you should organize and arrange for the following. Have a plan to self-quarantine for 14 days. Be prepared to provide evidence that you have a suitable place to quarantine. This means providing an address and a plan on how you intend to self-quarantine if other people leave at that same location. Explain how you intend to respect that quarantine plan. For example, how you plan to intend to receive essential food items such as food, water, etc. Here are various fraud activities and misinformation related to immigration applications. You must scan the QR code on the screen for more information. Protect yourself. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Never disclose your personal information to an unauthorized stranger. Fraudulent websites and scams. Websites may claim to be official Government of Canada sites. They do this to trick people into paying them money. Biometric services and IRCC forms. Biometric appointments are free. You should book your own biometric appointment. If you can't book your own appointment, don't use an unauthorized agent because your appointment may not be legitimate. Telephone scams. IRCC will never call you or ask you for any sort of payment over telephone. Unauthorized agents. You do not need an agent to submit an application. However, if you do decide to use one, ensure that your agent is legally authorized to represent you by being a member of a law society in Canada, the Chambre des Notaires in Quebec or ICCRC, a regulatory body for immigration consultants in Canada. All paid agents must be authorized. An authorized representative can provide you with valuable tips to avoid paying too much money for an immigration service, as well as what you can expect. Please make sure to follow us on social media for updated information regarding the VAC two-way courier service and additions to the DLI COVID-19 approved readiness plan. We also have the IRCC website, the High Commission website, and the social media channels on Facebook and Twitter. And you can take a screenshot of this or a picture of this if you want to capture these coordinates. That brings me to the end of the presentation. And I will now move on to the frequently asked questions, where, as mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, I will be addressing queries which we have received most frequently over different channels of social media and on email. While I do that, I will leave you with the QR code to scan the Visa Application Center frequently asked questions, which will give you information about how the process currently works. To be exempt from the current travel restrictions, the designated learning institute that you will be attending must have a COVID-19 readiness plan approved by their province or territory. And as mentioned, this list can be accessed on our IRCC website. As already mentioned in the presentation, and I will be reiterating this to say that a student must be in possession of either an approved study permit and visa or a port of entry letter of introduction in order to be able to travel to Canada as an international student right now. A very important thing to remember is that you should not travel to Canada until at most 3 weeks before the start date of your course. So, moving on to the questions. What do the new updates in the travel restrictions mean for international students? As of October 20th, 2020, students outside Canada holding a valid and approved study permit may enter Canada provided they are intending a DLI with a COVID-19 readiness plan approved by a province or a territory. As a student, your travel to Canada won't be considered essential if your study program has been cancelled or suspended, or you're entering Canada for any reason other than to study. So in this scenario, the next question comes, how do I demonstrate my travel to Canada is essential to the airline and when I am seeking to enter Canada? You will not be required to produce any other documentation to board your flight other than your valid passport, your study permit visa and/or your port of entry letter of introduction, a letter confirming the start date of your classes from your DLI, evidence of your ability to quarantine for 14 days prior to studying, evidence that you have enough money to support yourself. All other students destined to DLI is not on the list, despite having reasons for not being able to complete courses online, will not be able to travel to Canada at this time. This includes students that may have previously been in Canada and were studying. How do I know if my school is on the approved DLI list? As mentioned, the list is available on the IRCC website. If your DLI is not on the list, please contact your DLI directly to find out if they have submitted a COVID-19 readiness plan and at what stage they are at regarding their approval. This brings us to a few processing questions. Is the two-stage processing available for winter 2021 start dates? The answer is no. The two-stage processing is only for classes that started in 2020. If you have already deferred your studies prior to receiving your approval in principle, you will fall under the regular process. This means that you will not receive an AIP letter and you must wait for your application to be approved to its final stage when we are ready to issue you a visa. At this time, only applications to study at schools on the DLI approved list will be finalized to visa issuance. All other applicants must wait until either the school appears on the DLI approved list or the travel restrictions are lifted. I have not received an AIP and my DLI is listed to be approved with a COVID-19 readiness plan. Will I now receive a stage 1 AIP and then later will it be reviewed for stage 2? The answer to this is yes. You will receive an AIP letter if you submitted your application prior to September 15 and began your program in 2020. In addition, we will send you a request letter to submit your biometrics and medical exam if you have not yet provided them. Otherwise, if your biometrics and medicals have already been submitted, we will assess stage 2. If you pass stage 2 and your DLI has an approved COVID-19 readiness plan, we will send you a letter to submit your passport for visa issuance. The next question is, what if I'm missing a few documents like medicals? Will I still qualify for the student direct stream? The answer to this is no. If you're not able to submit all the documents under SDS, the officer will assess your application as the regular non-SDS application. What do I do if I cannot submit a document within the requested time frame? In this situation, upload a letter of explanation on your MyCIC account explaining why you can't submit the required documents, like your proof of enrollment, final transcripts, or others. For example, you may not be able to get these documents because offices are closed. When we start processing your application, we'll ask you for the missing documents and give you an extension to provide them if needed. We won't reject your application if you can't submit the required documents, other than your letter of acceptance because of COVID-19. You can also share with us this information by filling up our IRCC web form. Note that you must provide a letter of acceptance from a DLI upfront when you apply. We won't process applications that are submitted without this document. How will I know if I have been granted an AIP? A letter confirming your stage 1 approval will be sent to your online account or email, and so ensure to check both your junk folders and your spam folders. You may also receive an additional letter requesting you to complete the rest of your requirements, example your biometrics and your medicals, if you have not already done so in order to be issued a study permit. For letters received by email, please expand the headers in order to ensure it is coming from IRCC and not a fraudulent email. If I am granted an AIP, may I assume that once I complete my biometrics and medicals, I will get a student visa? The answer to this is no. AIP is not the same as being granted a visa. The officer will still need to establish that you meet admissibility requirements. Note that a stage 2 refusal is uncommon, that Note that the stage 2 refusal is uncommon provided that you have been truthful in your application, have not provided any fraudulent documents, and that you comply with any additional requests immediately. When will my stage 2 admissibility decision be completed? The answer to this is that your stage 2 admissibility decision will be assessed after AIP and before visa issuance. This includes an assessment of your medical, biometrics, as well as security and criminality background questions. If your application contains all the documents required for the stage 2 assessment, it will be assessed at the same time as stage 1. Note that we will not finalize any applications for approval for students destined to DLIs not on the approved list. This brings us to a very interesting question. Will IRCC issue any co-op work permits to students upon receiving approval of a study permit in principle or a stage 1 approval? A stage 1 eligibility approval is not a guarantee that a study permit application will be approved. As a result, a co-op work permit cannot be issued before a final decision is made on a study permit application. However, this does not prevent you from beginning your co-op program while abroad. The work permit is only required for work to be done in Canada and not outside Canada. What are the requirements that need to be completed to receive the stage 2 admissibility decision? In order to conduct this assessment, you must provide your biometric, your immigration medical exam, answer all questions truthfully and completely. This includes declaring all previous visa refusals for all countries, providing all background history for the last 10 years, and being truthful about any previous arrests and criminal history. And last but not the least, submit only authentic documents. The next question is, will I receive a refund of my tuition fee if my application is refused when I am studying online in India with a DLI in Canada? The answer to this is that DLIs are responsible for setting their refund policies. We, IRCC, cannot speak to this issue, but students are encouraged to ensure they are familiar with the various DLI policies relevant to their situation. The next question is, will my DLI have to provide me with any supporting document if they are on the list of provinces and territories approved institutes with a COVID-19 readiness plan? The answer to this is yes. DLIs are required to provide guidance regarding the requirements to travel in quarantine in Canada, including what to do should someone encounter or be affected with COVID-19. Should my DLI or institute provide an updated letter of acceptance stating that they are on the government's list of approved institutes? This won't be necessary. It is not a requirement since the list has been published and we will be updating it regularly, in fact, every 2 weeks. In case your DLI is not on the list, you may want to contact them to find out at what stage they are. You only need to provide an updated LOA if, in case you are deferring your studies or are switching to a new DLI. I am eligible to travel to Canada as per the amended travel restrictions, but I have still not submitted my biometrics. Is there any provision for me to travel to Canada without submitting my biometrics here in India and provide them once I land in Canada? The answer to this is no. All students must submit their biometrics in order to qualify for a visa. And as mentioned during the presentation and as per our latest updates, our visa application centers are now accepting biometric appointments for students. So please go ahead and book your appointment by using the VAC web form and then go and submit your biometrics. The next question is, my DLI is on the approved list, but my classes are still going to be online. So in a scenario like this, can I travel to Canada? The answer is yes. As per the new travel amendments, irrespective of the medium of classes, physical or online, students may travel to Canada as long as they have an approved study permit and their DLI is on the provincial or territorial government's approved list. Will I be able to work in Canada once in the country, even if my classes are online? The answer to this is yes. Once you land in Canada, you are eligible to work for up to 20 hours a week. You may also work outside of Canada if you choose to continue your studies online abroad. In this circumstance, IRCC cannot enforce the amount of hours you can work, although we do recommend you focus on your studies as a priority. Moving on to the next set of questions, which pertain mostly to language tests. May I submit a language proficiency test result that I completed online? If my school has accepted my result for my admission, is this sufficient? The answer to this is no. IRCC does not accept results from online language tests. There are no changes to the language proficiency assessment score requirement. The recommended tests are IELTS for English and TEF or TCF for French. We also accept TOEFL and PTE academic. Test scores from Duolingo or any other online language test will not be accepted for any immigration application purposes, including for study permits. The next one is a very interesting question. What if my IELTS score is expired or is about to expire before I receive a decision on my application? Given the limited availability of open test centers at this time, we will accept the IELTS results as long as they were valid on the day you submitted your application. The next question is, does IRCC accept PTE language scores as proof of language ability for a study permit application? As mentioned earlier, we accept PTE academic language test scores. You must submit your scores to IRCC using the PTE portal. Do not include your username and password in your study permit application. The next set of questions is about deferring your studies. So the question is, my application is still pending. What happens if I defer my studies to a later semester? If you choose to defer your studies, ensure you submit a new letter of acceptance using the web form as soon as possible so we may update your file. How do I extend my visa if I received an approval of my study permit but then deferred my studies? In a situation like this, you will need to apply for a new study permit with updated information because extensions of study permits are only granted to students who are already in Canada. The next question is, may I defer my studies after I receive an AIP? Yes. However, you must submit a new letter of acceptance from your DLI as soon as possible. If you change your course of study or decide to study at a different DLI, the officer may reassess your Stage 1 decision. Moving on to the next set of questions, which are mostly about postgraduate work permit. When determining if 50% or more of a program has been completed in Canada for Pgwp eligibility, how is the time calculated? 50% of a total program of study is calculated based on the number of courses completed in Canada. In a situation where part of a semester is completed in Canada and the other part online overseas, IRCC will consider that the semester was completed in Canada. Applicants may have to submit additional documents from the DLI. The next question is, I have already completed 50% of my program online prior to the fall semester. Will I be eligible to receive a Pgwp? You may complete 100% of your program online if your program is between 8 and 12 months in length and you started your studies between May and September 2020 and you finish your program by April 30th, 2021. You may complete up to 50% of your program online, which is until April 30th, 2021, if you complete the other 50% of your program in Canada. And you may complete up to 50% of your studies online until April 30th, 2021, if you will graduate from 2 different eligible study programs within 2 years of each other. One of the programs started between May and September 2020. Each program is at least 8 months long and you complete at least 50% of the combined length of the programs in Canada. The next question is, if I switch from full-time to part-time studies, will this affect the duration of my postgraduate work permit? Students may put their studies on hold or become part-time students due to course cancellations as a result of public health measures at DLIs and COVID-19. For the winter, spring and summer 2020 semesters, when a student's status changed from full-time to part-time due to changes in course delivery at a DLI, their eligibility for a post-graduation work permit will not be impacted. Starting in fall 2020, students who do not maintain a full-time status may not be eligible for the Pgwp. And moving on to the last set of questions, which are about accompanying dependents. I submitted an application for my dependent along with my study permit application. Will they be processed at the same time? The answer to this is yes. Applications for spouse and children of prospective students will be processed at the same time. You must provide financial documentation to show how you will be able to support your dependents without working in Canada. With the new travel amendments in place, what will be the status of the spousal applications which were in process and whose spouses are now eligible to travel to Canada? IRCC is processing these applications and all applicants will receive decisions on their applications soon. However, because of service disruptions and limited staff, there is a backlog which IRCC is working through, so applicants are requested to kindly be patient. And in case you had submitted an application without your biometrics, please note that spouses and dependents of students who might now be eligible to travel to Canada are still not able to submit their biometrics as per the latest visa application center updates. So you might have to wait for a little while before you can go ahead and submit your biometrics. The last question is, will my dependents be eligible to travel with me to Canada if they have a temporary resident visa and I have a study permit? With the amended travel restrictions, immediate family members may be able to accompany an international student to Canada if their reason for travel is non-optional or non-discretionary, such as getting established in Canada in support of the principal applicant's study program. This could include a spouse or common law partner, a dependent, or in the case of a minor child who will be studying in Canada, a parent or a legal guardian. Like all travelers to Canada, international students and accompanying family members will be subject to all public health measures, including the mandatory 14-day quarantine period upon arrival in Canada. To be exempt from the travel restrictions, temporary resident visa holders who are immediate family members of study permit holders require a letter of authorization from IRCC in order to travel to Canada. A request for authorization to travel may be made to the IRCC travel exemption mailbox, which was shared during the presentation. When you write this mail to us requesting for your authorization letter, please remember to include the following information. Documentation showing that you are an immediate family member of a study permit holder, why you need to travel for an essential purpose, and your file number, name, and date of birth. With that, I come to the end of the frequently asked question section of our webinar today. And now we will move on to answering your questions. As mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, request you to please share your questions in the Q&A box and not in the chat box. And please note that we will not be addressing questions which we have already addressed during the frequently asked questions section. And to respond to your queries now, I would now like to invite Ms. Elena Balboa, who is our student unit manager. So over to you, Elena.
Thanks, Anandita. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. We really appreciate you giving us some time to listen to our presentation and as well go through the questions with us. So let me start with some of the questions that I'm seeing in the chat, and I'll do this for the next 20 minutes. So first question, I've applied for January 21 intake and on July 18 and done my biometrics in August. My DLI has been approved on November 3rd, yet I have not gotten final approval. When can I expect my final approval? So what I would recommend, because we have been approving all of the applications where all of the documents and biometrics are complete, as soon as that DLI list is being updated every 2 weeks. So you may not have received your passport request letter. So I really highly recommend you to check your email and check your junk mail folders as well, just in case it was inadvertently sent that way. And also, if you have a MyCIC account, check your MyCIC account for any correspondences that may have been sent to you. You may have just missed your passport request letter. So if everything else is complete on file, that's likely what's happened. Next question, is biometrics for DLI approved students only? No. So all students who have an application submitted may ask for a biometrics appointment. So please go ahead and contact VFS to make that appointment. Make sure that you do use their online web form to submit your request for an appointment. Next question, how much days are there for the process of file now? So as we had mentioned in the presentation, there really is no standard processing time for us because of this pandemic. Everyone is working with very limited resources. So we ask you to just please be patient. We really can't judge what the current processing time is because we are prioritizing certain applications and other applications are being held in a pending status until their DLI is also approved. So while some applications, it may have been submitted at a later date, are now receiving their approvals, it's only because their DLIs are on these approved lists. And for those whose DLIs are not yet on that approved list, that list is being updated every 2 weeks. So please monitor that. I would also recommend that you contact your schools or keep in touch with your schools rather, because they can give you some intel about what their plans are for getting on this list. And they can give you an idea of when they might be seen on that list as well, so that you can start planning ahead for travel. Next question, when can we expect to hear for an appointment after submitting the form? So this is with respect to requesting for a biometrics appointment using the VFS web form. So number one, thank you for using that VFS web form. Note that like many businesses across this region, they are operating on limited resources because we need to have some physical distancing within the offices, and this includes the VACs, right? So the VACs are operating with limited resources, and they may not be able to get to your email right away to book you that appointment. So please be patient. Number one, only send one web form for that request, because if you keep submitting appointment requests, this is just backing up the system, and it's going to cause delays for everyone, including yourself. So just submit one web form and just wait for a response. They will contact you. Keep in mind that right now, the ones who are being prioritized are students and family class applicants. So the VACs had started booking appointments first for family class applicants, but they are also booking for students now. So just be patient. You will be booked for an appointment. Don't you worry about that. But just be patient and wait for the VAC to contact you first, please. Next question. I applied for my study permit in March with all the necessary documents and got AIP, and I'm attending my class online. My medicals got expired yesterday. What should I do? So if your application is still in process, I would suggest you wait, because there are certain circumstances under this pandemic where we are extending the validity of certain medical exams. So depending on what your medical exam has shown and the results of that, we might extend it an additional 6 months, which means you may not have to necessarily redo your medical. So please wait for an officer to review your file, to review your medical exam, and they will let you know if you need to redo your medical again, or you may not hear from us about your medical at all, which means that we've actually extended it on your behalf and no further action is required from you. So anyone who has an expired medical or a near expiring medical, please do not contact us. We will contact you if you need to redo it. Otherwise, if you do not hear from us about your medical, assume that we are extending it on your behalf automatically, and just wait for us to send you a passport request letter when we are able to approve your application for visa. Next question. My medical has not been updated on my GC key for more than 3 months. What should I do? So I think this is just, it's not so much that we may not have received your medical results, likely that this information is just not being updated in your GC key. So if you had submitted your medical information to us, just be patient. Your case is in process. We will have received this in 2 ways. So number one, we would have received it from you when you had submitted that information to us. Number two, we would have also received this information from the panel physician who conducted that medical exam from you. So there's already a backup of how we're to get this information. So please be patient and don't worry about your medical unless you hear from us. So just note for everyone who's really worried about whether or not IRCC may have received information you provided to us, do not panic if you don't hear that we're telling you specifically we've received this. Like I said, everyone's operating with limited resources, and it does take a lot of our time and resources to be able to respond to all of these questions. So just be patient. If we need something from you, we will let you know. Why? Because right now we will not be refusing any applications which are deficient. So don't be worried that we might refuse your application for non-compliance. This will not happen under this pandemic. This is one of the policies that we've implemented to help everyone. So please be patient, wait for us to contact you. Next question. What rules will apply for January 2021 intake students? As this intake will be remotely, we need to do the course from inside Canada, or can we study from outside of Canada, and how will it affect our study permit? So this really relates to, I think, to having your time on studies count towards your Pgwp. So The government of Canada is really interested in bringing more international students to Canada, and we appreciate the investment that you are making in a Canadian education. We are allowing students to complete online courses, whether inside Canada or outside of Canada, up until April 30, 2021. And one of three things can happen. If your program is between 8 to 12 months in length, and you started your program between May and September 2020, you can do that entire program online and have that entire program count towards your Pgwp. If your program doesn't meet those requirements, you can complete 50% of your program, whatever characteristics it may have, 50% of that program online outside of Canada up until April 30, 2021. And then after that, you can complete the remaining 50% of that in Canada. And then the last option to you is if you're taking two programs. Each program is at minimum 8 months in length. And you will be graduating from either of these programs within 2 years of each other, and you had started one of the programs between May and September 2020. Guess what? So think of those two combined programs together. If 50% of those combined programs in whatever percentage you may complete it in, as long as it's 50% of those combined is completed outside of Canada online, the remaining 50% can be done in Canada as well. So really, if you're talking about, say, for example, 2 1-year programs, so it'll be 2 years altogether, and you decide to do those programs concurrently, so you could do 50% of one and 50% of the other, and then do the remaining 50 in Canada. Or you could also do potentially 90% of one program and 10% of another, and then the remaining 90% of that other program, like in Canada, that's perfectly fine as well. So as long as 50% combined is done outside, and then the remaining 50 is done inside Canada, all that time will count towards your Pgwp. So next question. I submitted my passport on 20 November. When to expect its return? So this is going to be like a theme to all of my answers. We're operating at limited resources. Please be patient. Please do not expect service to be like it was pre-pandemic, because like many businesses across this region, across India, the High Commission of Canada is also working with limited resources because we need to have physical distancing within the mission. So we have less staff working on all of these things to make sure that you get your visas. So I realized that you had submitted your passport 7 days ago. Please be patient. We are hoping to get everyone's passports out to them as quickly as possible. Regrettably, I am unable to provide a time frame. So just please be patient. Please do not send any inquiries, because we're going to end up using more resources to answer those inquiries, which means less time on getting those passports back to you. Okay? So please be patient. We really do appreciate that. Next question. When will the results be for the January intake? So this really depends on a lot of factors. So number one, when did you submit your application? Because we are seeing inquiries of people who just submitted their application last week and are begging for a decision. So everybody needs to be patient. We are working through applications as quickly as we can. It also depends on whether or not your application is, if you are destined to a school that's on the DLI approved list. Because right now we are only approving cases that are where the student is destined to a DLI on that DLI approved list. If your school is not on that list yet, do not panic. We are not refusing your application. Your application will just be on hold. And once your DLI gets on that list, then we'll be able to process your application and issue you that visa. So please be patient. Please do not request for confirmations or additional letters to let you know what status your application's at. Please be patient. Please wait for your DLI to be on the list. Please wait for us to send you that passport request letter or any other types of request letters that where we might need additional information from you. And in terms of receiving those request letters from us, so I really highly, strongly encourage you to monitor not only your online MyCIC account, but also your email, because depending on which office is processing your cases, they may send information or request letters to you in various modes. So either through your MyCIC account or through your personal email that you've included in your application. Make sure to check your junk mail just in case it inadvertently got swept that way. Next question. I received my passport submission request. Can you guide me further steps for submitting the passport? So as we mentioned in the presentation, you really need to contact VFS to arrange for the two-way courier service. You cannot bring your passport to the VAC. The VAC is only accepting biometric appointments, and they will only conduct biometric appointment services. They will not conduct any other type of service at the VAC at this time. So your only option is to use this two-way courier service. If you were not able to screenshot the email that we provided in the presentation, please visit the VFS website. The VFS website also has these instructions, including the email address at which you should be sending your request for this two-way courier service. So when you send an email to this specific email box at the VAC, make sure that you include a scanned copy of your passport request letter, and then just wait for them to contact you. They will contact you by email to make this arrangement. Next question. I submitted my online application on November 11, mistakenly marked yes on biometrics question. I've paid the biometrics fee. How can I get the instruction letter? So if you have not yet received that biometrics instruction letter, please go on our website and use the web form to submit a request to us with your application details. So make sure you include your full name, your application number, your passport number, and date of birth. Next question. How quick will the final decision be on completed applications done after we submit our biometrics? So yes, it's very exciting that VACs are open and taking biometrics. So number one, we have to wait for that information from those biometric booths to come to us through our system, but that doesn't take long, a few days. And then we'll need to compare what school you are going to based on the DLI approved list. So if your school is on the DLI approved list and all of the other documentation on your file is complete, I'll say that the processing of your application should move relatively quickly once you've submitted biometrics. So again, monitor your MyCIC account and your email address for passport request letters. Next question. My application is complete, biometrics, and my DLI is on the travel exemption list. When can we get a decision? So I think this is a very common question. Please be patient. We are trying to work through our inventory, and we will try to get you that decision as quickly as possible. So, you know, sometimes people do miss that an email may have been sent with that passport request letter, and really, honestly, check your junk mail folders or your spam folders, because it may have inadvertently been sent that way. Next question. I haven't received the confirmation of biometric appointment. I filled the web form 2 days ago, and I have the BIL and the email for go ahead with the appointment. So I think that you need to be a little bit patient, because as I mentioned, the VAC is working at limited capacity. So please be patient. Do not expect instantaneous responses or confirmations for your appointments. Please give them some time to book the appointments. Also, you know, the VACs are being inundated with a lot of requests right now. So depending on where you are in line, that could also factor in. So please be patient, wait for them to contact you. And do yourself a favor, only submit one request, because if everyone is submitting more than one request, sending multiple requests, this is going to slow down the process for everyone, not just yourself. Next question. After my rejection of May intake, after this, I relodged my file but haven't received the BIL letter. So please send us a web form. Go on our website, use the web form to request this BIL letter. Again, check your email and your MyCIC account in case it's already been sent to you. Next question. When do you intend to start processing visa applications for January 2021? Also, when do you intend to start processing spousal open work permit applications, as many applications are pending for quite some time? So this is like two questions. So the first question is, we've been processing applications all this time, and we usually process applications in the date order that we receive them. So for the January 2021 students, I don't know when you submitted your application, but that could factor into this. And if your school is not on that approved DLI list, you may not receive an approval letter from us or a passport request letter from us until your school actually gets on that DLI list. Now, in terms of the spousal open work permit applications, so we do have I will admit, we do have a backlog for work permit applications. And right now, the VACs are only taking biometric appointments for family class applications and study permit applications. So anybody who is going as an accompanying spouse for a student may not yet be able to submit their biometrics. It's going to come. Just not yet. Just be patient. So at this time, there's going to be a delay. The student may get their visa well before the spouse on the open work permit will get their visa. So you may have to travel to Canada separately if you really need to get to Canada soon for the student. And then your spouse on that open work permit will just follow you at a later date once they're able to also submit biometrics and get their visa. Next question. If a file is lodged in the non-SDS category, is the only reason for refusal less band scores in this category? So no, not necessarily. There's so many reasons why a file could be refused and not just related to language scores. Although I will admit, language scores is one of the top reasons for refusals, where their IELTS scores are showing less than 6.0 in one of the bands or more, or whatever that equivalent may be in TOEFL or PTE. So another major reason for refusal is finances. You just haven't demonstrated that you have the funds to support your studies for your entire first year of school. Plus, you failed to provide a plan of how you intend to pay for the remaining years of school. So, those are just the two main reasons for refusal, but there's so many others. And really the only way, what I would recommend if you are trying to avoid a refusal is really submit all the documents we need. Like really, as long as we get all of the documents we need, and then you explain in your statement of purpose, why are you choosing this program of study? Why are you choosing to study in Canada now? Explain to us your financial plan, how you're intending to pay for your studies in Canada. As long as you've covered all of those bases, you really are increasing your chances of getting that visa and avoiding that refusal. So I see that's 11:59, so let's go to one more question before we end this session. Let's see here. So I've been admitted to U of Alberta Master's Program for Winter Intake 2021. I'll be applying for my study permit in December. My query is, what are my options if my study permit application doesn't get processed before the start date of the winter intake? So I'll say that you have two options. Number one, you can contact your university and ask them if you can you can take online classes up until you get your visa, and then you will travel to Canada and start, be physically in classes once that happens. That's one option. And I know that some schools are doing this, so speak to your school. They may have this option available to you. Your second option would be to just defer your intake. So you can defer your intake to another semester. But don't disregard the option of online classes so quickly. Like, it would be a shame if, for example, you deferred your classes because your visa just hasn't come yet, and then it just, you may have just been a week delayed, and you've lost out on all that time. If you're on online classes for, say, for example, just the first month of the winter semester, and then you've been able to receive your visa and travel, and then you can, go into class right away from there. Talk to your school and see what your options may be for your program. I'm hoping that first option is available to you so that you can begin your program right away instead of waiting and deferring. So it's 12 o'clock here. I'm going to end the session now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please continue to follow us on our social media, Facebook and Twitter. This is where we post all of our events for various webinars or information sessions that we may have in the future. And we welcome you to attend all of those events. We also post updates on our social media about, for example, back services, if there's any updates to that, any updates to our program, any more measures, changes to travel restrictions, etc. And then, of course, there's also our website that goes into more detail about any updates to our program that may be in effect. So thank you so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Please take care, stay safe, and we hope to see you again virtually. Bye now.